With all the details of patch 10.2 out and all the shakeups of 10.1 behind us, we've had some time to feel out the changes and we've got some predictions to make. Trust me, you guys are really going to want to learn how to play as or against these champions right now. They are incredibly strong. So smash that like button, destroy the sub button, and let's jump right in. First off, we're going to be covering the mid lane, and oh my god, has this lane been shaken up. Right now, Diana is destroying mid lane with almost a 55% win rate. 10.2 has touched no mid laners at all, so Diana's strength isn't going anywhere. Right now, she is one of the prime abusers of Conqueror, so you are going to want to take the precision tree with Conqueror, Triumph, Alacrity, or Tenacity if the enemy team has a lot of CC, and Coup de Grace. For your secondary runes, you actually have two distinct choices, and usually you're going to take Domination with Taste of Blood and Ravenous Hunter. The exception is when you're fighting somebody who can actually contest you in the early game, something like an Assassin or maybe something like Pantheon. In that case, you want to take Resolve secondary with Shield Bash and Bone Plating to prevent you from getting chunked out super hard. When you are playing Diana, keep in mind that your level 1 is really weak. You have no gap closer and your damage is lower than almost everybody else's. So you usually want to wait for level 2 or even level 3 to start really going out on your laner. At that point, you have a lot more mobility and your damage goes up. On top of all that, you have a shield too, so it's really going to be hard once you hit level 3 and beyond for most enemies to contest you. If you're playing against Diana, remember that she is weak in the first levels like I just mentioned. Her mobility only really works when there's an enemy to target, so she is very prone to jungle ganks when she's overextending. If you can get her to start pushing the wave towards your tower and freezing it there, she will be in a very risky position. She is not strong enough to 2v1 in the early and mid game until she starts getting some items. Diana is not the only strong AP assassin right now, because Fizz has also seen a ton of success. This isn't going to change when 10.2 drops, because Fizz has gotten no nerfs, neither have any of his items or his runes. Not to mention that no supports have been buffed in a meaningful way to stop these AP assassins from going crazy throughout the games. When playing Fizz, you're going to want to take Electrocute, Sudden Impact, Zombie Ward, Ravenous Hunter, Presence of Mind, and Legend Tenacity. The Presence of Mind and Legend Tenacity really solve some of Fizz's most basic problems, where he is weak to CC and his high mana costs. If you don't think that you're going to be in a position to place good wards for those zombie wards to be useful, then make sure you swap out to Eyeball Collection so that you could snowball even harder. With all these Conqueror champions around who really need some time to do a ton of damage, it's no surprise that Fizz is excelling right now. Your impact as Fizz in early fights right around when you hit level 6 is huge. With junglers having a little bit less EXP now and hitting level 6 later, you can easily abuse a bunch of junglers right now. And if you manage to do that, by the time they hit level 6, you're just going to be too strong for it to even matter. If you're playing against Fizz, keep in mind that his E has a very long cooldown. If you have any powerful point and click abilities or skill shots, make sure you save them for when he is not able to use his E. He also shares a weakness with Diana, where if he's overextending, he can be vulnerable to ganks. Especially if you bait him into using his E, that gank is almost guaranteed to work. Our last mid laner is Ahri. She's been creeping up in popularity ever since a lot of these dashy champions have come out. Riot made Ahri's charm cancel all dashes that are happening when it hits the target. This directly counters champions like Fizz or Diana. Not only can Ahri stop those assassins or really mobile champions from playing the way they want to, but she has the mobility to match with her R. When playing Ahri, you're going to want to take Glacial Augment. Right now, it's just too good at shutting down champions with limited mobility. You're going to want to pair that with Magical Footwear, Biscuit Delivery, Cosmic Insight, Taste of Blood, and of course Ingenious Hunter for the item cooldown reduction. These runes let you take advantage of your mobility and slowing capabilities as much as possible. To learn more about playing as or against these really strong champions, I highly recommend that you check out our website GameLeap.com. Even if you aren't looking for champion specific content, we also have a ton of other guides on lanes and general skills. If there is something that you're looking for and you don't see it on the website, make sure that you let us know. We are always looking to make more and better content with our challenger level content creators. That way we can give you guys the best edge possible to help you win your games. Jumping up to the top lane, we've actually had a pretty significant shift here. Despite nobody in top lane getting any buffs or nerfs, we have had Set introduced now, and he has been taking over the top lane. A lot of tanky champions have been pretty popular in the top lane for a little while now. Even if they aren't tanky, they still have lots of health, and Set excels against targets exactly like this. Playing against those high health targets is an absolute dream for Set, because he can get those sick RKOs into the entire enemy team and just destroy their health bars. When playing Set, you're going to want to take Conqueror, Triumph, Tenacity, Last Stand, Revitalize, and Second Wind. These runes give you the longevity and sustain that you need to get through the laning phase and start cracking skulls. Remember that as Set, especially at level 6, you are incredibly strong at turning around ganks. You can easily use your Facebreaker and your ulti to start throwing around your opponents like they're ragdolls. Darius is next on this list, and it's no surprise considering what I mentioned earlier. A lot of the high health and tanky champions are really popular, like Malphite, Kled, Ornn, or even Singed. Darius excels at destroying these champions. Anybody who takes a long extended fight is going to be in big trouble against him. The exception is Set because of his massive shields. When playing Darius, you're going to want to take Conqueror, Triumph, Tenacity, Kuligras, or Last Stand depending on how much damage the enemy team has, then wrap it up with Nimbus Cloak and Celerity. Last on our top lane list is Kled. With Set and Darius being super strong right now, is it really surprising that Kled's up here? Nobody's trying to rework the meta here. Kled has always excelled at taking fights against champions who do damage over a longer period of time. His dismount and remount mechanics are incredibly annoying for both Set and Darius to deal with. Not to mention that Kled's Grievous Wounds is really annoying for them as Conqueror users who have a decent amount of healing in their kit. With all these beefy boys thrown down in the top lane, you are absolutely going to want to take Conqueror as well. No exceptions here. Finish off the precision tree with Triumph, Tenacity, and Last Stand, and complement that with Resolve, taking Bone Plating and Overgrowth. A lot of Kled players don't seem to take advantage of the way that his ulti works with his Q. If you happen to have your E down in lane, but have your ultimate, and land your Q on somebody, just ulti at them. Of course, this is assuming that you're confident that you can kill them, but your Q will not break and your R will allow you to catch up to them even if they flash. You can bait people into thinking they're safe by wasting your E and then using your R as a gap closer instead. Let's jump into the trees and get on with our jungle picks. First up, we've got Zac. With the rise of a lot of AP champions like Echo and Elise, and with a bunch of AD carries being very immobile in the bot lane, Zac has come back in popularity. He is an incredible frontliner with a respectable amount of damage, and he has a ton of CC and slows in his kit. By far, what is most important about Zac though is his absurdly high healing. Because of this, he naturally wants to buy a Spear Visage and usually prefers to build Magic Resist as a first item. With the nerfs to a bunch of popular AD carries in the form of a Storm Razor nerf, Zac should have absolutely no trouble doing exactly what he wants to do. When playing Zac, you're going to want to take Aftershock, Font of Life, Conditioning, Revitalize, Cosmic Insight, and Magical Footwear. Remember that your E has a natural weakness to displacements and hooks. Anything like that can interrupt you and make you overextend in a position where you might just die outright. Champions like Thresh, Blitzcrank, or even Set are very, very powerful against you. Our second jungle pick is Echo, and this champ has not stopped dominating the meta for like 2 patches now. If we're going on 10.2, he's gonna make it 3. When you're playing Echo, you're going to want to take Dark Harvest, Sudden Impact, Zombie Ward, Ravenous Hunter, Magical Footwear, and Cosmic Insight. But be careful, if the enemy team has a lot of CC, you're going to want to take Precision Secondary instead. Make sure that you take Triumph and Tenacity. That way, you have at least some way to break out of your opponent's CC and ulti before you get 100 to 0'd. Sometimes just having the Tenacity rune isn't enough though. Make sure that you don't bait yourself into buying Sorc shoes just because you want to do more damage. Sometimes Merc Treads are the right choice. The CC could just be too much for you to handle without them. If you aren't going to play Echo, at least play Zac like we just talked about, or our next pick, Elise. Effectively, Elise is like an early game version of Echo. She has incredibly strong, high burst ganks, but doesn't scale quite as amazingly as Echo. What she does bring to the table though is that she counters Echo on her own. she forces him to buy Merc Treads by herself. Her damage and CC is a constant threat to him and is really all that's holding him back from being the absolute end-all be-all best champion as we are going into patch 10.2. When you are picking Elise, just make sure that you pay attention to the damage that your team has. If you already have 3 magic damage dealers, then she's really not a good pick and you're not going to want to go with her. Elise runes should be Electrocute, Cheap Shot, Zombie Ward, Relentless Hunter, Nimbus Cloak, and Water Walking. Remember that Elise is an aggressive jungler and you're gonna want to get wards constantly in the enemy jungle. That's why you take Zombie Ward instead of Eyeball Collection. You should be placing and doing those aggressive wards and plays. All of the movement speed will help you roam around and get this sort of pressure, and Cheap Shot with its low cooldown will just be better with your red buff and blue smite to help you do more damage over time. If you aren't familiar with Elise, let me just give you a quick tip right now. Make sure that you remain in her spider form whenever you are going to be going long distances. You will have more movement speed to cover the ground faster. Over time, this makes a huge difference. With our junglers done, we're going to be jumping over to bot lane, and this is where the most changes are going to happen. There's been a lot of shakeups with item nerfs and champion buffs. First AD carry up is Senna. With a lot of the hard-hitting early game champions out of the way, Senna has been shining through. Her healing on herself and her support make it so that the lighter early game AD carries have an incredibly hard time laning against her. You're going to want to take Glacial Augment, Perfect Timing, Biscuit Delivery, Approach Velocity, Presence of Mind, and Legend Bloodline. These runes turn Senna into an incredibly punishing champion to play against. The slows combined with her root potential is really hard to get away from, not to mention that this can set up her support as well. If you are playing against Senna, make sure that you all in and make it count. Senna scales really hard, so you want to take advantage of the fact that she has very little to save herself in the early game. Because her attacks are so slow, putting her behind just a little bit can make her damage very underwhelming. Senna also doesn't rely on Stormrazor at all, so she won't be affected by any of the targeted nerfs at bot lane. The go-to champion in response for Senna has been Miss Fortune, and she's another champion who does not rely on Stormrazor. She will definitely be a cut above in 10.2, just like Senna. When playing Miss Fortune, you're going to want to take Press the Attack, Overheal, Bloodline, Coup de Grace, Magical Footwear, and Biscuit Delivery. This gives you the strongest laning possible. She actually makes really good use of Overheal, as her Q does so much damage to minions. This can let you take high damage, repeated short trades against your opponents. Over time, your Overheal shield and lifesteal will make up for any of the damage that you take during the fights. The last AD carry on our list is gonna be Jinx. Unlike most AD carries, Jinx actually has the range to deal with champions like Senna, Caitlyn, and Miss Fortune, and she also got a small buff in 10.2. Aside from that, she's been doing pretty well lately thanks to her E-change a while ago, where now her traps stop all dashes in progress. This gives her at least some room on her own to play against all the new champions with their dashes. Even if you just take a quick look back at our list, Diana, Echo, Zac, Kled, they all have dashes. When playing Jinx, you're going to want to take Lethal Tempo, Presence of Mind, Bloodline, Coup de Grace, Nimbus Cloak, and Absolute Focus. Presence of Mind is especially effective now as Jinx no longer has any mana problems in extended fights. If she's going for the long term, she doesn't have to worry about Essence Reaver anymore thanks to the rune. Finally, we're going to be moving on to our supports, and there's been quite a few changes here too. We are expecting Nami to take over the bot lane. Her performance in 10.1 was outstanding, even better than Leona and Nautilus's. Given that she was already this strong and that Nautilus is actually getting a slight nerf, Nami should easily take over the bot lane on her own. When playing Nami, you're going to want to take Airy, Mana Flow Band, Transcendence, Scorch, and then you have two choices. You can either go Inspiration or Resolve, depending on what the enemy laners have. If you're looking at a lot of burst, you might instead want to go for Resolve, take Bone Plating and Revitalize. If it doesn't look that scary, then you can instead take Inspiration and go for Biscuits with Cosmic Insight. With Nami surging to the top, it's not really a surprise that in response, Soraka has been getting a lot of attention as well, and with no nerfs headed towards her either, we should expect to see them at the top of 10.2 as well. When playing Soraka, you're going to want to take Airy, Mana Flow Band, Absolute Focus, Scorch, Magical Footwear, and Cosmic Insight. Specifically, Mana Flow and Absolute Focus are going to let you make the most out of your lane. Soraka's Q gives her a ton of regen, and this will let you pressure your opponents even more. Don't forget that you can share the regeneration with your W. Another tip is that your ultimate is empowered when your allies are lower health. Make sure you save it for the right time. Soraka, specifically when she takes Barrier or Cleanse, is also a very good pick into the two top tier supports in Nautilus and Leona. We'll get to them shortly. She can really easily bait thanks to all of her regen and the extra shielding or CC cleansing. Don't forget that her silence is very effective too. This can easily shut down either the AD carry or support on the enemy side and make it so that they're all in with the Nautilus hook or the Leona engage is much less effective. Once a Soraka lane survives that initial engage where the enemy burns Ignite, usually it's smooth sailing from there. Lastly, we're gonna cover two champions at once here. Nautilus and Leona, and that's because if one is picked, you almost always see the other. Not only that, but they also take the same exact runes. When playing Nautilus or Leona, you're gonna want to take Aftershock, Demolish, Bone Plating, Unflinching, Biscuit Delivery, and Perfect Timing. Both Nautilus and Leona fulfill the exact same role, and that's why they're often picked against each other, because they can effectively cancel each other out. They are two very tanky champions whose job is to threaten, engage on, and disrupt the enemy team. When only one of these two is available, it is very difficult for the other side to contest in that lane. That is why champions like Nami and Soraka were listed here first today. They have actually been successful despite the prominence of these two insane engaging champions. Going into 10.2, Nautilus is receiving an incredibly minor nerf, losing between 10 and 30 damage on his Q. He is not going to appear any weaker than he is right now from this nerf. The damage loss is incredibly minor. On top of that, Leona is getting 0 nerfs. This means that they'll still be a step below the other two, but they're definitely a step above the rest of them. These 15 champions are looking to be the prime time picks for patch 10.2. To learn more and stay one step ahead of your opponents, I highly recommend that you check out our website, GameLeap.com. Whether you're looking for champion-specific guides on the champions that we covered today, or generic lane guides, we've got something there for you. If you notice that there's something that isn't there that you really think is important, make sure to let us know. We are always looking to make more and better content with our challenger level creators. We have courses for all levels of understanding, so no matter what rank you are, there is something there that will help you. If you made it this far, thanks for watching the whole video. I'll put in a good word with the people I know at Riot, maybe they can extend your autofill protection by one more game. Anyways, as always, my name is Ace Windstorm, and I will see you all later.